that frogs have a versatile respiratory system that lets them breathe both with lungs and through their skin, adapting to different environments. Although frogs primarily use their simple lungs to take in oxygen from the air when on land using buccal popping method to move air into their lungs. Amphibians can absorb oxygen and release carbon dioxide directly through their teeth, moist skin, a process called continuous respiration, which is especially important underwater or during inactivity. The relative reliance on lungs versus skin varies by species and condition. Aquatic amphibians depend more on skin respiration, while terrestrial rely more on lungs. Even as adults, amphibians continue to use continuous respiration alongside lung breathing, with the skin also serving as a major route for carbon dioxide elimination.
So this is the introduction of why moist skin is necessary for gas exchange. Animals with moist skin are commonly found in water or damp, humid environments because they rely on cutaneous respiration instead of lungs or gills. These environments help keep their skin wet at all times. The moist surface of the skin allows oxygen and carbon dioxide to dissolve and move across the skin by diffusion, which is essential for effective gas exchange and survival. Animals that breathe through skin such as frogs, earthworms, and salamanders, which need moist or humid environments to survive. So now this is the reason why moist skin is necessary for gas exchange. The first reason is oxygen and carbon dioxide must dissolve in water before they can pass through the skin. Gases cannot move directly through dry skin. They must first dissolve in water so that they can cross the thin skin cells by diffusion. The second reason is what moist skin provides a thin water layer that allows gases to dissolve easily. The moisture or mucus on the skin forms a watery layer where oxygen from the air dissolves, making gas exchange possible. The last reason is dry skin prevents effective diffusion, stopping gas exchange, meaning if the skin becomes dry, gases cannot dissolve, so diffusion slows down or stops, making respiration impossible through the skin.
How temperature and water affect amphibian respiration? Amphibians are ectothermic animal, meaning their body temperature and metabolic rate depend on environment condition. Therefore, both temperature and water availability play important roles in regulating their respiration. Effect of temperature on amphibian respiration. First, for low temperature, the metabolic rate of amphibian decrease, causing a reduction in oxygen demand. As a result, the breathing rate slow down. In this condition, amphibians rely more on cutaneous respiration where gas exchange occurs through the skin. Next, for the high temperature, the metabolic rate increase, leading to higher oxygen demand. Amphibians respond by increasing their breathing rate and depending more on pulmonary respiration using their lung. However, excessively high temperature can cause dehydration of the skin, which reduces the efficiency of cutaneous respiration. Effect of water availability on amphibian respiration. First, importance of water. Water availability is essential because amphibian skin must remain moist for effective gas exchange during respiration. Next, wet or aquatic environment. In wet condition, the skin remains moist, allowing oxygen and carbon dioxide to diffuse efficiently through the skin. This makes cutaneous respiration highly effective. And lastly, for dry environment, in dry condition, the skin loses moisture, which reduces the diffusion of gas through the skin. As a result, cutaneous respiration becomes less effective and amphibians rely more on pulmonary respiration using their lung. Prolonged exposure to dry environment can seriously threaten amphibian survival.
Next is about what are the limitations of cutaneous respiration in larger amphibians. So, for the first limitations is surface area to volume ratio. This because larger amphibians possess a lower surface area to volume ratio, which directly makes breathing through the skin less efficient. As an animal grows, its internal volume, which is the amount of tissue needing oxygen, increases much faster than the surface area of its skin, making the skin alone insufficient to support its body. Other than that, larger amphibians may face with limited oxygen supply. Skin breathing is only effective under conditions of low oxygen demand. This method fails to meet requirements during periods of high oxygen demand, which is a problem that is particularly pronounced in larger amphibians. Because of these limits, lungs are essential for survival and activity on land. The other limitations on larger amphibians is their dependence on moisture. For an amphibian to breathe through its skin, the skin must remain wet so that oxygen can dissolve and diffuse into the bloodstream. As amphibians get larger, their total surface area increases, leading to a higher rate of water evaporation. Due to having that much exposed surface area makes them highly prone to dehydration, especially in dry environments. Last but not least is their vulnerability to environmental damage. Amphibian skin is intentionally thin and permeable to allow gas exchange. However, this lack of a tough protective barrier makes them biological indicators of ecosystem health. Also, making them highly sensitive to pollutants, chemicals, and pathogens. Because of their respiratory surface is the same as their outer protective layer, any damage or contaminations of the skin directly impairs their ability to breathe.
Next, I will be discussing how environmental changes impact one of the most vulnerable groups of animals, amphibians. Amphibians are especially sensitive to their surrounding because they rely heavily on their permeable skin for respiration, in addition to gills and lungs. Changes in temperature, water availability, and pollution can disrupt this respiratory system, often with synergetic and severe effects on their health and survival. One of the most direct threats is chemical pollution. Amphibians breathe through their highly permeable skin. This allows efficient gas exchange but also make them vulnerable to toxins. Pollutants like pesticides, heavy metals, and acid rain can damage skin cells, reduce protective mucus, and decrease skin permeability. This results in less oxygen entering the bloodstream, which can lead to hypoxia or suffocation. And it's not just adults, tadpoles rely on gills for oxygen uptake in water. Chemicals such as ammonia, nitrates, and heavy metal cause gill inflammation, structural damage, and reduced surface area. This means limited oxygen absorption, which can stunt growth, disrupt development, and even cause. Beyond pollution, habitat loss poses another major threat, especially to amphibians' respiratory health. Many amphibians depend on aquatic environments for breathing and level respiration. When waters are drained, rivers diverted, or ponds destroyed, these essential water bodies disappear. Amphibians are forced into suboptimal habitats with poor water quality or low oxygens, impairing gill function in larvae and reducing skin-based respiration in adults due to dehydration or concentrated pollutants. On land, amphibians require moist microhabitats to keep their skin wet for respiration. Deforestation, urbanization, and soil erosion reduce ground cover and humidity, drying out their environments. The result is increased skin drying, which thickens the skin and reduces oxygen permeability. This leads to respiratory stress, lower activity, and makes them more vulnerable to infection and predators. In summary, environmental changes, particularly chemical pollution and habitat loss, directly compromise amphibian respiration by damaging their skins and gills, and by altering the moist habitats they depend on. These factors often interact, making amphibians important bioindicators of ecosystem health. Their vulnerability reminds us why conservation of clean, intact habitats is so critical.